Hi everyone, welcome back to Legally Yours. I'm here again with the wonderful Annette Lakey from Lakey Law, and in this episode we're actually going to delve a little bit deeper into some terms that we've heard around family law like mediation, parenting coordination and collaboration and collaborative law to really find out what that means. So thank you so much for joining me.
That's okay, Karen.
So you're a family lawyer with a focus on really helping clients that have separated to stay out of the court process. So I guess my first question is, why? Why do you want clients to stay out? I mean, don't lawyers like going to court? Isn't that what we think? Tell me about that.
No, not all lawyers do.
Yes.
The reason I don't like court is not just because of the money, the delays, and the emotional expense of it.
Yeah.
It's just what happens after.
Yes.
So I've seen a lot of my clients come through fairly horrible court cases, mainly because they've had really difficult ex-partners, very aggressive lawyers on the other side, and they've come out of the side with their children in a really terrible place. Often they have big loans to their parents because their parents have had to fund the proceedings, or they've had to sell property to fund the proceedings. They've had lots of allegations thrown at them, and they find it really hard to move on with their ex-partner and be actually able to co-parent their children. So trying to avoid that and actually fixing it at the pass through alternative resolution such as mediation, to really try to help the family beyond getting their agreement done. Because it's what happens in the future that's actually the most important. People will eventually forget about what happened at the time of separation, and hopefully the children will as well. But continuing the conflict for a long period of time is just going to be worse on the family as a whole.
Well, that's right, and I think the court process, it causes a lot of scarring on everyone that goes through it. And I think the thing that people don't often realise is that that's just the beginning of a journey of a lifetime of parenting. So parenting in particular, if we take it with a family with kids, it doesn't stop at the separation. It actually goes, forever. There's going to be moments where they'll have to come back together. So if you can make that separation as amicable as possible and sort of keep everyone intact, the better. So you're actually an accredited mediator.
I am.
So why did you make that decision to sort of go into that sort of space, and does that benefit you when you're acting as the family lawyer because you understand mediation as well? Is that a benefit?
Absolutely. Yes. So I did my training quite a few years ago when I was in Queensland, and the major reason was because I wanted to learn of a different way. And mediation back then was quite a popular thing because of the new amendments at that stage to the legislation about being required to mediate the matter in parenting matters. And the skills that I learnt as a mediator, I use in my daily life in dealing with my clients as well. And it also helps me work out what service is best for my clients. So for some people, unfortunately, a normal mediation service, like a government-based service, isn't going to assist because their matters are too complex and the personnel is too complex. So I have a number of fantastic private mediators that I'll refer my clients to, and I've seen it work really well where they've gone through a mediation right at the start of the process. They might have a couple of sessions with or without their lawyers, and they're able to resolve the matter really without stepping a foot in the courtroom. And that's always the best result for most people.
And part of that process also, I guess, is the emotional, working out the emotion as well, because often that's the first thing that needs to be sorted, because it can be, even if it's an amicable separation, there's still a lot of emotion involved in that separation. So you need to kind of work through that before you can get to the facts of how it's going to on go. And you also, collaborative law is a bit of a buzz term that we hear in family law now. What is collaborative law, and who is that good for in terms of people that have separated?
Collaborative law is really a team-based approach, a multidisciplinary team-based approach where you can have different professionals such as financial planners, psychologists, as well as the lawyers, actually sit down with a couple as a team and actually help them through what they need to do. And where it works really well is they don't necessarily need to be amicable, but they both need to want to resolve their matter, hopefully without a big battle. Usually there's some complexity in relation to their financial aspect, but even for couples who don't have that complexity, it can still work really well.
Yes.
It can include parenting. It's particularly good for property matters.
Okay.
And as I said, you have one neutral financial person, for example, who can actually help both of them. And it's quite an unusual way of doing things because of the usual conflict of interest type scenario where, for example, a lawyer can't necessarily act for both parties and they can't advise both parties, but in a collaboration sense, whilst they have independent advice, it's still this team approach about actually saying we're going to commit to making sure you guys are okay. And also it provides, even if once they've reached an agreement, they can still utilise the services from time to time to help them complete what they need to complete.
Fantastic.
And it has really good feedback. I mean, there's been some amazing feedback about how the process has really helped families.
And I think an important one on that is that the couple have to actually make a commitment. Like you said, they don't necessarily have to be amicable or have already agreed what they're doing, but they have to agree to the process.
They do.
That's right. And sign on to say we're not going to take this into court. That's the intent.
And having that commitment is fabulous because at the back of their minds are, look, we really need to do this because otherwise we're going to have to end up instructing new lawyers. We're going to have to start from scratch.
Yes.
And it's not just the expense of that, but it's also the emotional turmoil of having already dealt with everything through the collaborative process and then all of a sudden have to go to a judge and lose total control of how they're actually going to manage their dispute.
And that's a wonderful point because there's a lot of control infused in that, and that's the same in mediation as well. I think you're taking back some control in that process as as the party, and not having it off to someone who doesn't know you, doesn't know your family, doesn't know your circumstances. So it's really important. You mentioned accessing sort of the services after. There's a new thing that we're hearing a lot about called parenting coordination.
Yes.
Talk to me about what that means and why that's something really interesting that we need to talk about and that parties could potentially look at accessing once they've gone through the separation process.
One of the real problems that I've found in parenting matters is that parties will often spend a lot of money getting to a judge.
Yes.
And a judge will say, you're seeing the kids X, Y, Z, but there'll always be some grey. So whether that's changeover, whether that's times, whether that's how you interpretate holidays, when they start, when they finish, it's impossible, I think, to really future-proof an order. You can put a lot of detail in there, but there's always interpretation. So where a parenting coordinator can be of great assistance is they can actually commit to spending time with the parties after the orders are made, and where there's a dispute about an interpretation of an order or there's some issue that would normally require going back to your lawyer and letters firing back and forth and then the dispute actually starting again.
Yes.
The parenting coordinator and they're reportable, so any communications with the coordinator is reportable, unlike mediation, which is confidential.
Okay.
So they can commit to say 12 months or 2 years where they'll see the coordinator on a regular basis and be able to work through any problems that have arisen because of the orders. And as I said, people think, oh well, I've been to court, it's all done and dusted, this is going to be it. Unfortunately, a lot of people end up going back to court over contravention of orders, change of circumstances, one party wants to move away, etc. Kids don't want to go anymore, and they're all things that a coordinator can assist with.
And I was just going to say, I mean, being a parent myself, I absolutely circumstances change, and they change, in ways that you can't even anticipate, at certain ages. So you sort of need a way to be able to learn how to almost communicate again as parents, even though you're no longer married together, but be able to sort of parent, together and understand that sometimes things do change and children change and their needs change, and so you need to really kind of work with that, which I think is a wonderful thing. And you work with parenting coordinators as well, don't you?
I do. Yeah. I'm trying. It's just a new thing in Australia. It's been quite well known in America, and basically I'm trying to encourage my clients to seek orders in their actual court applications for parenting coordination. So very slowly the judges are getting involved. So I'm hoping that eventually judges will as a norm, actually put clauses in there about parenting coordination, because what it will do is it'll unclog the court system, because so many people are coming back on contravention applications. Judges don't want to deal with them, and it will also assist parties in having a third party that they can actually go to when there's a problem. So instead of ringing their lawyer at 10 o'clock at night saying so-and-so hasn't handed the kids over, then it can be sorted out through the parenting coordination.
And even just getting that date to return to court to do a contravention. I mean, you know, it's impossible to get into court. I mean, I was at the family court the other week and there was a line literally right
so was I. I was there that day as well.
And I was like, this is crazy.
It takes months.
It takes
literally months
takes
to
months.
even
and
get.
People can't afford that time when they're parenting. It's a daily thing.
And you don't get reached on the first day.
No.
You're adjourned a number of times.
Yes.
So it's just not a good system. It's there because we need it.
Yes.
But if people can avoid that, and I think that's why parenting coordination, I'm really hopeful will really take off in this country.
I love it. So if you're out there and you're separated or thinking of separate, I'd really encourage you to sort of start exploring it and looking into these terms of mediation, parenting coordination, of collaborative law. You can absolutely request a complimentary phone chat with Annette Lakey through our platform at legallyyours.com.au, or you can actually contact Annette direct at lakeylaw.com.au as well. But certainly, you know, I absolutely explore these ways because court should be for the most complex, the absolute kind of, you know, the things where they really need to be in court. Otherwise, do it for your family and go to lawyers like you that are willing to explore in those processes.
Thanks, Karen.
So thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching. Thanks.